CFA Society Winnipeg, through the years, in celebration of the 50th Annual Forecast Dinner. In anticipation of the 50th Annual Forecast Dinner, the CFA Society Winnipeg interviewed some of the long-standing members and learned about their early careers, highlights of changes they have seen, and what lessons to learn from their experiences. The following clips are their responses. What do you remember about your experience writing the CFA exams?
The CFA exams were hard. Not everyone's built to sit down and write a 6-hour exam, so I find that passing exams isn't necessarily a measure of how smart you are. Sometimes it's a measure of how well you can write the exam. I will say, however, that I did love writing the exam so much that I wrote level 2 twice. And you know when they say to bring an extra calculator to your exam, I highly recommend it, because in one of the years my batteries on my calculator started to fail, and if you want to see panic, it's no fun. So I do recommend bringing an extra calculator to the exam session.
I remember the exam was always early June. It was always a beautiful day. It was 6 hours. There was no multiple choice questions, and so you wrote for 6 hours, and at the end of the 6 hours your hand was very cramped up. Let alone you're mentally, you were pretty exhausted too.
Looking back, which financial event is strongest in your memory and why?
I think you always remember your first financial crisis. For me, it was the Mexican debt default in the fall of 1982, when the Mexican peso dropped by 50%, and they could not afford to pay back the loans that were granted to them by North American banks. It was an overhang for Canadian banks for a number of years.
I suppose there's two. One is October the 19th, 1987, so-called Black Monday. I happened to be on Wall Street that very day. In fact, I was on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, so it's a quite memorable event. In fact, I was there all week. The other was probably September the 11th, 2001, when I came into the office and we had CNN on the TV. And one of the secretaries said, "Tim, you better come into the staff lounge. There's important developments happening in New York." And I came in time to watch both towers collapse. And in fact, the second tower where the plane hit it, I saw it live on TV. And clearly the stock markets reacted negatively after those events.
In spite of 2008 being still relatively fresh, as long as it was ago now, it was really the dot-com bubble that had the biggest impact on me. You had companies trading at valuations that didn't make any sense. You had companies raising capital and going public that had really no revenue, and yet clients really expected you to own these types of companies, and we didn't own things like Northern Telecom or the dot-com IPO of the day, which ultimately went to zero. So it was a really tough time period when you have a lot of people telling you that you just don't get it. But in fact, we did get it, and things worked out quite well for us.
What advice would you give to new charter holders and future candidates?
I think the advice you'd give to any people starting out on a career, which is to get involved, participate. For the financial industry, being active with your society, go to the conferences, be active nationally, internationally. There's so many opportunities. Be curious, do the work, just be involved. And from what I've seen from some of the younger folks in the business, I think they're already doing a lot of that, so good for them.
Stay clean. Do not do anything unethical or illegal or anything else, or anything to damage your reputation. It's a great career. It pays well. It's very rewarding, both intellectually and monetarily. The worst thing you can do is to do something wrong that causes you to be drummed out of the business, because you won't find a better job. And to tell you the truth, I think most people will feel that the reason they're in this business is not for financial reward anyway. It's basically because I think it's such an intellectually stimulating kind of environment to work in.
How has your CFA designation added value to your career?
Certainly at the time when I took my CFA, I was doing private placements for Great-West Life, and it was very applicable in analyzing companies. At the time they were called triple B companies, but they might have been junk bonds. I think that the criteria that you employ in analyzing the companies and you're taught with the CFA certainly carries on into today's world. There's a lot more math now, a lot more quantitative analysis now, and it certainly has helped when I was managing the pension fund at the City of Winnipeg.
Well, a lot. I mean, I don't think I could have been able to take some of the jobs that I did without a CFA. Early on in my career, I wouldn't say there was a necessity to have a CFA to get hired or to even get promoted, but certainly over the last 40 years, and that's how long I've been in the industry, it is now almost a requirement for you to have a CFA if you expect to work in the industry and to get promoted.
Are you still able to apply the principles and knowledge you learned in pursuing your CFA designation today?
Absolutely. The principles of securities and investment analysis have not changed. They've become more dynamic, faster moving, but the requirement for integrity and ethical behavior in the markets and an understanding of the requirements of effective capital markets have not changed in that period of time.
You know, the details evolve. FASB or GIPS or new products, those come, go, but the fundamentals remain. So, it's all about risk and return, valuation, analysis. So I think those concepts stay with you. And I think certainly the ethics, the focus on ethics over the years has been a real benefit to the industry and a benefit to the people in it and CFA charter holders.
What changes have you seen in the industry since you started?
There have been many changes in the industry since I started. I started my career and interest rates were 20% and now they're close to zero. But I think the biggest influence has been technology. Technology has changed the business for the better and for the worse. It's provided easy access to information, but on the other side, it's commoditized the business and allowed a number of players that shouldn't be in the market in the market.
Probably technology. I hate to admit, but I remember doing spreadsheets by hand on big pieces of paper, and then having one computer for about 3 departments and having to book time on it. So I think the technology aspect has been, a real difference. Internet, again, that globalization, connectivity, speed and access to information. Bloomberg was just, I remember our sales coverage from Merrill Lynch coming in to talk to us about this neat new idea about a Bloomberg. And I mean, those things are everywhere now. So technology for me has been the big change.
The industry has suffered from a lack of investor trust, particularly after the financial crisis. What do you think is needed to restore the reputation of our industry?
Clients today really need to be communicated with more than any other time period, and not just regular communication in terms of how they're doing, but there needs to be increased transparency with respect to what is happening within their portfolios and what is happening with the financial markets. Along with that goes, without saying, that you really have to take the extra time to understand what clients want to achieve. At the end of the day, it's their money, so understanding their risk goals, return goals, time constraints, liquidity constraints, and unique situations they have are really paramount, and making sure that that's communicated in a clear, transparent way to clients is one major step we can move towards making sure that our reputation is as solid as it is.
Well, I'm not sure it's restoration as much as vigilance and promotion of the steps that the industry does take to ensure equitable and fair markets. Transparency and disclosure are the two main themes that can assure investors around the world that the markets are being operated for the benefit of all concerned on an even basis.
Thank you to our members that participated in the interviews. Thank you to our 50th Annual Forecast Dinner sponsors.